This is the After Party, live with Kim McAllister. Pick a couch, grab a drink, and settle into the conversation.
It is the After Party live on a Waterfall Wednesday, and there is one reason that I am here with you today, and that is thanks to Teacher Lori, who told me about her backup plan for her computer system and her router and her internet connection when she was remote teaching, and suggested that I get a system like that in place. And the power went out this morning just minutes before the Mark Thompson show, and the backup system seamlessly kept me on the air. And so, Teacher Lori, thank you for sharing your knowledge and for helping me figure out how to get this set up and keeping me on today. I had to reset some things in between shows because of the power outage. So it took me a little longer to get here, but I think I'm okay and everything is all set. And thank you for that, because I think I would have probably not been on either show today had you not shared that with me. I need Splash Top for remote. Perhaps I'll have to look into that. I don't know what that's about. Yeah, I'm not sure. Do we have somebody spouting conservative views? I mean, that's okay if you want to. This is kind of a non-political show, so we kind of try to keep it mellow and cool here. And we've already talked a lot about politics and had the heavy stuff of the world on our mind as we talked about it all on the Mark Thompson show and really thoroughly examined everything. So now we kind of collectively take a deep breath and leave that behind. So hopefully we're not pounding that in as far as the politics. All right. I'm sorry. Was there someone that I didn't see? Maybe that I should have zapped on the Mark Thompson show? My apologies if that's the case. Usually I'm pretty on top of it, but and I didn't get it. Yeah, I didn't see the nasty troll. So sorry. I'll have to make sure I'm on it tomorrow. Yeah. Okay. Well, that was then, and this is our deep breath, right? This is where we take a breath and we hang out. I have yesterday on the cave segment for Hide in Your Cave Monday. You know what? It's not it's not Waterfall Wednesday. It's Travel Tuesday. Hello. But I've done it again, and I've prepared a great waterfall segment for you. Why am I getting ahead of myself all week? I don't know what's wrong. But yesterday we had from Ren, her daughter in Croatia sent some really cool waterfalls and a video, and she also sent some cave pictures rather, and she also sent some pictures of waterfalls in Bosnia. So I think I had that on the brain, and that's why I pulled that together. So that's all right. As we showed last week, we can flip-flop around and it's all right, right? Another mistake from me. That's the way it goes. Okay. I set up the show and then I don't follow my own rules. That's my way. Let's jump into some of the stories that we have waiting. The first one has to do with this guy. My daughter was obsessed with these in elementary school. This is an axolotl, and it is a lizard, you could say. It's a kind of more akin to a salamander, amphibious kind of fellow who lives in a specific region of Mexico in a specific lake. But axolotls have superpowers. And perhaps you could say many lizards have this superpower where they can regrow their limbs. But in axolotls, they do this with amazing success. They are so-called champion regenerators. And scientists have figured out that it is a chemical that makes this possible, one that surprised them because it's also found in acne medication. So what we know about these adorable axolotls is that if they lose a limb or leg, they grow a new one, and it's totally functional. It has wiggly toes and everything. No problem. Over a few weeks or months, bone, muscle, skin, and nerves grow back in exactly the same formation as the one that was lost. This endangered aquatic Mexican salamander, called the axolotl, has this masterful superpower to regenerate. And it's said to be the best at regenerating of any amphibian, reptile, or fish species. Others can regrow limbs, but not always as successfully as our friend the axolotl. A lot of lizards can regenerate tails as well. There's new findings, though. This molecular pathway has been discovered that aids in limb mapping during regrowth. And it's what the axolotls use, their cells use, so that they know how to piece themselves back together in the same way as before whatever incident befell them that caused their limb to become detached from their body. So scientists use this gene-edited glow-in-the-dark salamander to figure out the role of a chemical called retinoic acid, which is a form of vitamin A. It's also the active ingredient in some acne medicine, like Accutane. And the concentration of retinoic acid along the gradient of a developing replacement limb dictates where the axolotl's foot, joint, and leg segments go. The scientists that figured this out have published it in a study today in the journal Nature Communications, June 10th. They say that concentrations are controlled by one protein identified in this new work, and it has a domino effect on the other genes. It's a question that regenerative biologists have been looking at. How does the regenerating tissue know and make a blueprint of exactly what's missing? This is a question asked by Catherine McCusker, who's a developmental biologist at the University of Massachusetts, Boston. She talks to Popular Science, saying the findings are really exciting here because they show even the low levels of retinoic acid naturally present in salamander tissues have a major impact on the limb formation. The old work that they had done showed the tissues have a vitamin A adjacent molecule, but at different dosages. This new study, though, looks at retinoic acid's relevance at normal concentrations, and by identifying how that retinoic acid is regulated and the effects of the compound in the molecular cascade, they think they've figured out something that's pretty far upstream, the process of limb regeneration. And once they decode that process, once they know the complete chemical and genetic sequence that triggers regeneration, they think biomedical applications become more feasible. Could we regrow human limbs? Bioscientists say it's a matter of time before we're able to do that. And as we get there, to be able to regrow our own appendages, that we could have a better understanding of things like how to treat cancer, which sometimes can behave in similar ways as regenerating tissues, or how to better our care of wound and burns. All of these things. And if we find out, it'll be thanks to this axolotl. They found that higher concentrations of retinoic acid tell the body of the axolotl to keep growing leg length. Lower concentrations signal it's time to sprout a foot. Too much retinoic acid, and a limb can grow back deformed and extra long, with segments and joints not present in a well-formed leg. And that would make it so the axolotl couldn't move well. It's all about the amount in the process and when in the process. They say it's a single enzyme that regulates the amount of tissue that regenerates, breaks down the retinoic acid so that when the gene makes the protein that makes the protein is activated, the retinoic acid concentrations drop, allowing conditions for foot and digit formations. So interesting. And then there are 3 additional genes vital to limb mapping, bone formation that seem to be directly controlled by concentrations of retinoic acid. It's pretty interesting. Let's see where this goes. This is pretty cool research. The pictures are disturbing, but this is fascinating. This is the body of a hammerhead shark. It was dropped by an osprey onto a disc golf course. Disc golf, I think that they have these discs, kind of plates that they throw into the air. It's a game, but it's played on kind of an open field. And this osprey was mobbed by crows. It had picked up this small hammerhead shark, and crows came and wanted it, and it forced the osprey to drop this hammerhead onto the disc golf course. The osprey sometimes catches something larger than it can handle. Usually its prey is less than 12 inches long, but in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, this is a not for a hammerhead, but for prey for an osprey, pretty sizable. This man playing disc golf says he witnessed an osprey drop a pretty sizable hammerhead shark after he was chased by a group of crows, a murder of crows, you could call it. Here he is. See, the hammerhead's pretty small, but that was interesting. He said it's not uncommon to see an osprey carrying something, but you take note, it's really cool to see. It flew above the 11th hole, and a pair of crows attacked the osprey, mobbed it, which is this cooperative technique used by birds to protect territory against predators during breeding season. The osprey got away, but it had to give up the hammerhead shark. The guy said he thought it was a random fish because the Atlantic Ocean's nearby, so it's not uncommon to see a bird of prey carrying a fish through the air. But he said he was surprised when he walked over to see what was dropped, that it was a little hammerhead. He said we couldn't believe it. We kept asking ourselves, did that really just happen? So interesting. They say it's unclear which species of hammerhead was dropped onto the golf course. They left it there. They didn't take it. They thought the bird might come back for it, so that's what happened. Pretty fascinating. Uh-oh. Oh, that's a sad little face. This guy, this baby raccoon, and also a baby groundhog, had to be rescued by the animal control staff in Massachusetts. They say this guy was found standing on a doorstep, and they had a baby groundhog that got tangled up in a batting cage net. It was a very busy day for animal control in Belchertown. The raccoon was found all alone on a doorstep, a little baby raccoon. He's standing on his hind legs, looking at his rescuer, if you're not able to see the picture. He's just very cute and also kind of sad. And then they went and got the groundhog stuck in a net as well. Both baby animals were taken to a center for wildlife rehab. Both are doing well, and both will be released back to their homes when they are ready. So, uh, cute but sad picture, but a good ending to that story. So, a lot of people have an urn that maybe you have grandparents' ashes or parents' ashes or whomever, whatever loved one. And what do do with it when you pass? Who do you give it to? And then who do they give it to? And who does that ancestor give it to? And what ends up happening to the ashes of someone that is a distant relative that is in your line of ancestry, but you never met? Do we just have a line of urns on the fireplace, or how does this happen? Well, there is a new thought that instead of having ashes in an urn, you instead have something called a family urn. This is where the ashes are all combined, And they say it takes the ego out of the funeral process. You don't have your solo final resting spot, you share. The idea of a family urn took a medal at this year's London designed Biennale. They have presented an expandable spherical urn designed to hold the ashes of multiple people together. It's called Urna. And they say traditionally funerary urns house the ashes of a single person after they die. But they wanted to create a monolithic urn that can be used to hold the ashes of an entire family. It's a controversial idea, and a lot of people that were at this design gathering say, yeah, we don't know. There were a lot of Catholic people there. They say we don't feel deeply connected to all the traditions and architecture, so why not reimagine it? Others don't love the idea of changing the way the burial process, the urn process goes. I don't mind it. I wouldn't mind being mixed with my ancestors and loved ones, you know? They collaborated with a stone supplier and they constructed this urn from stacked discs of poured Maltese limestone. Adding new layers allows the vessel to grow and encompass more people. They say urna is not a static monument, it's something that grows over time, like the strata of the Maltese landscape. It's also a provocation to remove ego, to not have this little photo and they say crappy little tombstone, but to be part of something a lot bigger. So they're going to work on scaling up the urna over the next few years, trying to place these urns in disused limestone quarries across the island that were abandoned after extensive mining. They say it's like a big fossil, kind of like land art, and it is big. You see it here pictured on a table, but it's rather large, and again, it grows over time. So here's a picture of it compared to a person, so you can see how big it can get. And I don't know, I guess you would probably have to keep this at a cemetery, a place where it would be big enough, because I don't think I have. I mean, I suppose you could put it in your backyard. That's pretty big, though. See Erna in the on the side of the screen there, as compared to the size of a person? Yeah. It looks a lot bigger there than it does here or here. But perhaps you can have it small with just a few relatives, and then when you get a bunch of people in there, it gets pretty big. I don't know. The idea won a medal this year. So, you know, I don't mind. I don't need my own place, my own urn, my own grave. I don't mind sharing. I think that's fine. What do you think? Does it bother you? Too big. Gordon says it's too big. Three's a crowd. Get out of my urn, says Ricky. Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty big. But again, it grows over time. I mean, if you had what, I don't know, 100 family members in there after a long time, you would need it to be that big, wouldn't you? I don't know. Yeah. Again, here's the way it looks. The big daddy Erna. I kind of like it. This one doesn't have a lid on it. I kind of like the ball urn with the lid on a table somewhere, but it still takes up a lot of space. And I don't know if you want to be thinking about death every time you walk into the room to see this on a table as a centerpiece. And would you put it outside in the garden? Where do you put Erna with all of your relatives in it? I don't know. Dave says it's weird Catholics had an opinion. Catholics aren't supposed to be cremated. Maybe that's why it's controversial. I don't know. Yeah. Vanessa says my dad wanted to be scattered in Lake Tahoe, but the entire coastline is under the control of the U.S. Forest Service. They don't allow scattering ashes. A lot of people break the law. They don't allow it at Disneyland either, but a lot of people scatter ashes at Disneyland and then they just get washed away. So, yeah. Yvonne says, wrong side of the family. My dad would do that. Mom's side all passed. I don't know. I'm going to be scattered in the Gulf of Mexico. Heather says it's still taking up space, even though it's not a grave. I think graves, mausoleums are a waste of space. Yeah, but but rather there than my house, because again, eventually you're gonna die, and then what? Your grandparents' ashes go to your kids, and then maybe they keep them around, but then their kids have them, and now you've got great, 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 great grandparents' ashes somewhere in the house that have just trotted around from generation to generation. Probably better that they're buried somewhere, right? I don't know. Um, Judy says it is stylish. That it is stylish. You could say it's a piece of art and not tell people that it's the burial place for hundreds of your relatives. Rhonda says I'm watching a show where a crematorium is burning. Many people at once to make more. Ooh, gross. Ew. How about an earth globe? That would be interesting. They could carve the earth instead of those disc lines. Gordon says my mom's ashes got mixed with others at a cemetery. When my dad passed recently, um, he had talked to my stepmom about being cremated, and so he was. But one of the things he said is, make sure it's not one of those places where they put a bunch of bodies together and burn us all together. So he didn't want to be mixed with other people. I don't know. Ren says, what if you divorced and your ex wanted to be buried with the kids and your whole family? Hey, you know what? Everyone in there is dead. Don't worry about it. Throw them all in. It's fine. The ex goes in, right? Current husband, when they die, they go in. Everybody goes in. There's room for everyone. There's no ego allowed in the sphere in Erna. Yeah, Trevor says, I don't really care what happens. When I die, I'll be dead. Come on, says Mindy. Time for the ashes to go back to the earth. Judy says the thing about graves, it gives survivors a place to visit their loved ones. I've never thought, though, that my loved ones are actually there. Not that I'm all holy roller or anything, but I feel like even with my dad, I kind of feel sometimes his spirit with me. I know that's so creepy to say that, but I just feel like he's maybe it's because I say it in a sappy way. I carry him in my heart, right? I don't feel like where his body, the remains of his body lay, that's where he is. Similarly with my grandparents, they're buried in a cemetery in San Rafael. And I've been there before, and I don't get the feeling when I stand there at the graveside that they are there. Bones are there, maybe, but I don't feel like who they were, the essence of who they were, is there. So that's just me. I guess a lot of people like to go to cemeteries and visit. Yeah. Gordon worries about whether we have enough space eventually. So Phineas is getting the Musk Neuralink so he doesn't die. Like Data or the Borg. Resistance is futile. Nullifidian wants to be composted to help something else grow. That's a nice thought. My husband wants that as well. He wants to, there's this new composting thing, which seems kind of gross because they help you along, they help your body decompose. God, how did we get? I'm sorry, this is so morbid, but I mean, hey, again, you're dead, so it doesn't matter. Susan says this is all something we don't want to think about until we have to, or someone does it for us when we're gone. I kind of like Erna. My whole family's going right in the orb. That's it. Everybody in. I like the idea, Mindy says, of turning the ashes into a beautiful gem. I'd wear it around my neck. That's what Nikki says she wants to do when I think, what did she say? I thought she said when her mom passes. I have to ask her what she said, but yeah. Gordon says, I would have my body buried close to a tree without a coffin. They have a green cemetery like that in Mill Valley where you're wrapped in a like a an organic sheath, like just a piece of fabric and buried that way so that the circle of life happens a little more quickly. Mhm. What if your ex cremated you and it was against your wishes? Well, one would hope that your wishes are followed, but I again would argue you're dead and it doesn't matter. Like it wouldn't matter. But hey, I mean, that would be a bummer. Noel Fidian says, I've been getting calls about funeral insurance. I tell them I don't need it because I'll never die. Yeah. Um, yeah, all you have to do, says Heather, is think of them and their memory lives on. That's kind of how I am. I don't necessarily need remains to go visit in order to feel that way. But I also don't need to go to church in order to feel like I need to talk to a higher power. So, you know. Tammy says my daughter can just go to the beach, which is where you would like to be scattered. Phineas says I'm getting buried on top of my grandfather. Everyone believes and handles it differently. Yeah, this is true. Nullifidian says for a long time I wanted to be buried at sea so I could get back into the biosphere quickly. You guys are so interesting. Mindy says, yeah, we visit mom and grandpa all the time. Love the headstones. Some of them are beautiful. Heather's mom is planning to do the gemstone thing. Ooh, Heather, I love your necklace. Thank you. It's my mom. Susan says, my cat died recently and I didn't want her ashes because I want to remember her in a better way. Yeah. Yeah. We had our dog, Zoe, who was a Siberian Husky, the first dog that I ever had. We got her before we had kids. She's a great dog. And when she died, they took her to a pet cemetery in the Napa Valley. Apparently in the hills, there's a pet cemetery, and I don't think you can go there, but that's where she went. Yeah. All right. Well, we'll move on from the Urna, but I thought that was interesting, to this more uplifting story about this wedding picture that was found in a book, returned to a library, and the library saw it and thought, that needs to be returned to this family. The wedding photo is from 1953, and a volunteer at a library in Michigan found it inside of a book from the 1950s. This is the Sterling Heights Public Library. The photo read Frank and Josephine Ruggiero, Nana Nono. That was written on the picture. And it was found inside this book that had been donated to the library's used but sterling bookstore. The library put the photo on social media trying to find the family. And someone tagged a person with the last name, and they realized this is some family members. Ruggiero has the woman's name, Sarah Ruggiero. She said she's confirming this picture was from her grandparents' wedding in Detroit in September of, 1953. Frank Ruggiero died in 2020. Josephine died in 2023. They had been married for 67 years. The photo is now a family treasure. Sarah said her dad and most of her family members had never seen this exact photo before. They didn't know it existed. Now she says she's framing it and displaying it somewhere in her house because it's such a cool story that it was found in a book and the library took the time to return it. That it's such a very cool thing that happened. So the Ruggiero family now has this very cool wedding picture of their grandparents. We'll stay in Michigan for this one. The winning lottery ticket, a scratcher offer. 50 times wild time. Yeah. This is a story where a clerk helped the customer pick out this lottery ticket. The clerk suggested, buy this ticket. This woman who's 42, her name is Amanda, who lives on in Gwynn, which is on Michigan's UP or Upper Peninsula, said she visited the Quick Trip to buy a scratch off ticket and it turned out to be out of stock. So uh she said I was at the store and I asked for a $20 wild time game, but they sold out of it. So the clerk suggested the 50 time wild time game, and she took the clerk's suggestion and won $500,000. She said, I wasn't sure if this was real at first. I thought I must not have read the instructions correctly, so I reread them. I went back to the store to scan the ticket and have the clerk look at it, and then realized she just won $500,000. She said the prize money will go toward buying a house and saving money for her children. She said, I still can't believe it's real. This money is going to be life-changing for my family. Very, very cool. All right. It's another story where a painting was rescued from a barn, a dusty old barn attic in Connecticut. It was painted, it turns out, in 1666, and it's called View of Olinda, Brazil, with Ruins of the Jesuit Church. Turns out it's a masterpiece by artist Franz Post, who was one of the finest European trained artists to create landscapes of Dutch Brazil. It just sold at auction, this painting, for more than $7 million. From the attic to some pretty fancy digs, this one. Yeah, the painting was discovered in the attic of a barn in Connecticut about 30 years ago. It was filthy, dirty. You could hardly see it. The chairman of Sotheby's North and South America, his name is George Wachter. He said he had a hunch that there was a really great painting underneath it. So he asked the collectors to acquire it for more than $2 million in 1998. They brought it to an art conservator, and with chemical solvents and soft cotton swabs, the conservator pulled back the grime of all the years, and the blue sky emerged, and then the ruins of the church emerged, and enslaved men and women carrying baskets and New World animals, including an anteater and an armadillo, were uncovered. And this painting, The View of Olinda, Brazil, with Ruins of the Jesuit Church, 1666, painted by Franz Post, sold less than 2 minutes after it reached the auction block last month at Sotheby's. It went for more than $7 million. It's a record for a Post painting. The painter was born in the Dutch city of Haarlem to a family of artists. And at the age of 24, Post traveled to Dutch Brazil, which was a former colony in the modern day country, according to the governor of Nassau. Only 7 canvases painted by Post while he was in Brazil remain, but he was there for 8 years. And when he returned to Europe, he was an in-demand artist, one of the few European-trained painters to specialize in the landscape of the Americas. So, $7 million. Can you imagine? He has detailed sketches as well that allowed him to paint some of the New World animals seen here. A diverse array of exotic animals and plants, a large lizard, a white bird, an anteater, an armadillo cluster around a pineapple plant. You can see them in the front of this picture in the lower left. Imagine having this covered with grime, and Q-tip by Q-tip, you uncover this. Not the only painting in the news. These paintings were stolen, ripped off. The retired couple who moonlighted as art thieves apparently returned these to the museum after 40 years. This these pictures, um, painted by Victor Higgins, one is called Aspens and the other is called Oklahoma Cheyenne. They had been missing since 1985. They were stolen in broad daylight from an infamous New Mexico by an infamous New Mexico couple. And then last Friday, found. Uh, the paintings had been missing from the museum's walls since March of 1985 when they were taken. It took 4 decades and a lot of detecting by an amateur historical crime researcher to get them back to their rightful owner. And now they're back on display as part of the return of the Taos treasures. The FBI, which located and recovered these paintings, have not announced any arrests in connection with the theft, but they have been linked with this retired couple, Jerry and Rita Alter, this husband and wife who reportedly led double lives as high stakes art thieves. Jerry died in 2012, Rita passed in 2017, and after their deaths, there was an art dealer who had to come in and appraise the contents of their 3-bedroom home in Cliff, New Mexico. And he found this painting hanging in the couple's primary bedroom that turned out to be Willem Koenig's Women Ochre, which had been stolen from the University of Arizona Museum of Art in 1985. And there was a picture of the couple that placed them in Tucson the day before that theft. That painting, the Koenig, is worth about $160 million, and it was eventually returned to the Arizona Museum. And now this. The account of the theft at Harwood is almost identical to the account of the theft at the University of Arizona. Guy comes in, big overcoat, slashes the painting with a packing knife, rolls it up, stores it in his overcoat, and leaves. The art analyst who had to price all the paintings didn't quite know what he'd uncovered. So he reached out to some people. They responded. They figured out what they had there. Right now, the FBI isn't releasing many details about the investigation or how it located the missing paintings. They say that eventually that they'd been donated to a thrift store and that then they were resold through a Scottsdale art auction in 2018. But there were multiple people that cooperated in getting these paintings back to where they had to be. There's a statute called the Theft of Major Artwork Statute that makes it a federal crime to steal any object of cultural heritage from a museum. It wasn't in effect when the Harwood paintings were stolen. Wow, very interesting. Now they're back where they go. Can you imagine these people living these normal lives and then having this whole other thing where they go around and steal art? Wild. I wanted to talk about this fountain in San Francisco. You've probably seen it, the one over on the left here. It's it's never been my taste, but kind of part of the downtown San Francisco landscape. And unfortunately, it's been declared a public safety hazard. It's called a controversial monument, the Viancourt Fountain. Uh, has a bunch of different names, but it's officially the Viancourt Fountain. There's a group of people that want to save this 40-foot tall fountain. Um, the San Francisco Recreation and Park Department, though, is looking at it. They are concerned that it has lead and asbestos, and parts of it have cracked and corroded and are missing, including a key support arm that doesn't include a failing pump, which is left. It's supposed to be a fountain, and the fountain has been dry for the last year. There's some stress cracking in the concrete and other damage to the embedded steel reinforcement. And they say that this fountain would likely not be able to support itself and resist the force of potential earthquakes. And that, they think, could be made worse by the Bay Mud Foundation beneath the sculpture. The cost to maintain this fountain, $100,000 per year. The system sustained persistent leaks and drainage failures that made upkeep very labor intensive. You can still see this fountain through a fence they're putting up so that no one goes in there and gets hurt. It's now considered public art. But the fence is low profile enough where you can still view it. You just can't get in it, climb on it, get in that area, or come in close contact with it. And right now they're considering its long-term future. This fountain was supposed to be interactive, where people were encouraged to walk through and engage with the sculpture, but it's no longer safe. The San Francisco Art Commission has jurisdiction over it. So what are they going to do? They're now in the planning stages, trying to figure out whether the fountain will stay or go. They have to hold public hearings on this. The Visual Arts Committee has to review everything. There's a change.org petition where more than 2,600 people have signed a petition to preserve this fountain, but supposedly it would be really expensive to preserve it and hazardous as well. And it could cost between $12 and $17 million to keep this sculpture around. I don't know. I'm not that attached to it. I think it can go for that much. Sayonara, sucker. You're out. All right. I do have the perfect cheers. You've seen this? This is a glass from Sapporo. They've tried to create the glass where you clink together and it makes the perfect cheers sound. This is a bell-shaped beer glass that is said to produce the perfect cheers sound. It was made for Japanese brewery Sapporo, and it has this bell-shaped base that makes a cheerful clinking sound when it touches another. It's a set of 2 matching glasses, and it's called the perfect glass for all different scenarios. In addition to seeing, smelling, and tasting the liquid, this bell-shaped design produces a pleasantly crisp and resonant tone when clinking glasses, much like a champagne flute, with the bell-shaped base here you see on the bottom. They say they recognize that filled beer glasses usually produce a relatively dull sound when used for a toast, so they added this bell-shaped foot at the bottom of the glass. And they refined it numerous times to achieve the best tone and resonance when the glasses are brought together. They used crystal glass to achieve the perfect clarity of sound. They had the glasses made in the Czech Republic by artisans. And the result, they say, is a beer glass with a familiar form, but a unique detail that embodies their playful design approach. They don't have a sound. They should have put a sound in here. The sound comes from the bottom. Here's the graph. Here's a regular glass. Then they tried with a footed glass, and then they put the bell sound on the bottom. And the bell sound on the bottom is what makes the perfect sound, the perfect cheers sound. You ever do that where you you cheers someone and it's just not good enough, so you have to re-cheers to make sure you get the right sound. Yeah. Well, they think they've done it with this. Because it do you guys wanna do I don't know if waterfalls. I'll hold waterfalls till tomorrow in lieu of this last story. And this is another find. It is a gold Viking bracelet. 1,000 years old, a fragment of this bracelet found on a British island dating back to when the Vikings ruled the land here. Archaeologists that found it think the piece was made by a skilled goldsmith and may have been used as currency. It was found on the Isle of Man, in between Britain and Ireland. On the Isle of Man, this is from an 11th century Viking treasure, an intricately woven gold bracelet. So it was originally found by this guy, Mr. Clucas, who spoke with Manx National Heritage. They protect the cultural history of the Isle of Man. He said gold generally gives a very low signal on a metal detector, so you can't really predict what's going to be uncovered. Mr. Clucas says, I've been detecting for many years now and found some wonderful things, but to find a piece of gold from the Viking Age, he said, well, that's really something else. So the Isle of Man is located between England and Ireland. It's a self-governing crown dependency of the United Kingdom. But in the year 798, it was settled by Vikings. They colonized coastal Europe between the 9th and 11th centuries. The position in the middle of the British Isles made it an important port for the Vikings where they could launch naval attacks and do business with trading ships. They also found that it had rich farmland. And so multiple Viking graves have been discovered on the Isle of Man. There's also remnants of Viking architecture and Viking tools and weapons and clothing. And now we have the first discovered gold piece. It's 8 braided strands of gold rod. They think it was made by a highly skilled goldsmith using a specialized technique. It weighs about an ounce. It was found bent in half. If it stretched out, it would be about 3 inches long. Only part of the brace's original circumference, so it used to be much bigger than this. They say that these bracelets or these jewelry items had several functions back in the Viking Age. They were prized personal possessions, they were visible displays of wealth, they were easily portable, and they were used to cover costs in some financial transactions. This particular gold bracelet was cut twice, clipped at one end, and then halved, meaning it may have been used as currency to pay for 2 separate purchases. The Vikings owner, they think, likely needed the other piece to buy something pretty expensive. There were many Viking women who wore jewelry like brooches, necklaces, and bracelets or arm rings. The Viking men were known to give silver or gold arm rings to their loyal followers, and they found a lot of those around the UK. This fragment of a gold arm ring was buried in the ground until recently, and they think it may have been hidden there for safekeeping. It may have just been lost, may have been buried as an offering to the Viking gods. Who knows? Who knows? So now it's uncovered and now it's on display. I'm telling you, we all need to go buy the metal detectors. Go on a metal detecting vacation together. See what we can find. Uh, all right. Well, that is the show. I do have waterfalls to show you. I'll give you a preview of this Bosnian waterfall. And tomorrow I have a bunch of waterfalls from this general area to show you, and they are beautiful. So that's what we have to look forward to tomorrow. And today, I hope you make it a very good day on this Tuesday where we didn't travel, but that's okay because we'll travel to Bosnia tomorrow. But make it a really good day. Thank you for being here. And I will see you back on the YouTube tomorrow. We've got John Rothman on the Mark Thompson Show that starts at 11 a.m. tomorrow. And I'll see you back then. Bye, everybody.
The After Party Live would like to thank the following contributors and viewers like you.
So I had a bad day, didn't know what to do. Then you helped me through, gave me some Pepsi Cola, helped me feel better into momentum. So gave me ice cream on a very hot day. I didn't even know what to say. Had it all. 'Cause you know you were the greatest mom. You were the greatest mom. You're the greatest.